I didn't actually. I did not make it to the fair. Since the girls had a couple days out of school, we just took the family up north and went up to Michigan, just far around. Good time. Did you make it to the fair? Yeah. Oh yeah, which was like Saturday. Yeah, yeah, we were up in Michigan on Saturday. Yeah. Actually, it was a good week in general, weather-wise.
Well, video. I only went one day. That's what I'm reading. I don't have enough time for
My wife survived a lot of degrees without taking kids. But I told her. She's like, are you serious?
I don't have enough time. It'll be forever.
That could be.
Check next year. Big enough next year.
This is back out. And I don't think she would have it in my own stuff. There's a lot of steps where you're I know, like that kind of cool. It's just so funny. The idea of going camping, right? It's like, look, they'll let you go there and scattering yourself. I mean, she was so proud. And even recently, I don't even know. I thought it was but it was just so fun. That was the big thing. I'm in there. Like recently. There was yeah.
The time is 7 p.m. I call the October 7th, 2015 City of Delaware Planning Commission to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Mansoris?
Here.
Mr. Prohl?
Here.
Ms. Tuckerbuck?
Here.
Mr. Halter?
Here.
Mr. Lemke?
Here.
Vice Chairman Simpson?
Here.
Chairwoman Keller?
Here. Moving on to item 2, would the clerk please read this into the record?
Approval of the motion summary of the Planning Commission meeting held on September 2nd, 2015, as recorded and transcribed.
What is the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to approve the motion summary of the Planning Commission meeting held on September 2nd, 2015, as recorded and transcribed.
Motion by Mr. Halter,
Second.
second by Mr. Lemke. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mansoris?
Yes.
Mr. Prohl?
Yes.
Ms. Tuckerbuck?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Lemke?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Simpson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Keller?
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to item 3, regular business. Would the clerk please read item A into the record?
Item A, 2015-1511, a request by Speedway LLC for approval of a preliminary development plan for an approximate 4,608 square foot Speedway gas station and convenience store on approximately 12.912 acres located on the northwest corner of US 23 North and Hills Miller Road on property zoned B4 General Business District.
Okay, last we met, we basically ran out of time to finish discussing this. We tabled it to a date certain, and basically what that means is we don't actually need to make a motion to remove it from the table because it's part of the motion that was made at our last meeting. So the process from this point forward would be basically to pick up where we left off in our deliberative process, and hopefully end up with a decision this evening. And before the commission begins its deliberations, as your chair, I want to help frame the discussion, I guess, to keep our compasses pointing north and to keep us focused on what the decision before us actually is. And there's a lot of details and differing opinions, but our task is to recognize the question that's being asked and to make a decision that's in accordance with the rule of law. At our last meeting, we heard over 2 hours of public comment on this topic. We appreciate you all coming and being here, and your comments have been very helpful to us. We know that many individuals don't want semi-trucks to refuel at this site. We hear that. We were asked to deny Speedway the ability to offer truck refueling, and if we weren't going to say no to that, then we were asked to limit the hours. But I caution the commission that that is not the decision that's before us. That is not the task of a preliminary development plan review. So on page 1 of your staff report, under the staff analysis section, you will see that this property is zoned B4, General Business District. This site has many times been referred to as a residential area, but the zoning on the property indicates otherwise. The site has been zoned for business since it was annexed in 1968 and before the residential area was even built around it. So if I quote the staff report, under the current zoning, and this is a direct quote from our staff report, the proposed gas station and convenience store is a permitted use. Again, to continue quoting the staff report, therefore the proposed use is not in question, is permitted in this district, and is not subject to review during this process. Skipping ahead a little bit in the staff report, I point out to the commission, the applicant therefore has the right to make this application and satisfy the basic requirements. The right of Speedway to use this land for a gas station is not something we're here to decide. That was already decided for us based upon the zoning. To say no to that would be interfering with property owner rights, and property owner rights are not something that are taken lightly in this country. Speedway bought land zoned for a gas station, and they are bringing forth a proposal to put a gas station on that land. By right and by zoning, the gas station is a permitted use. Because there are individuals that don't understand or be compelled by that, it doesn't make us commissioners any less responsible for that. So what is the purpose of a preliminary plan? What are we here to do? Well, to quote the staff report again, the preliminary review establishes the basic arrangement of the proposed use on the site. Access points, preliminary site circulation, and establishing any specific elements or conditions that must be further detailed and submitted during the final plan review. So our decision tonight, according to the rule of law, is limited to those items. We are here to decide if we're satisfied Speedway is moving in the right direction regarding the site configuration, building design, tree removal and replacement, landscaping and screening, signs, lightings, miscellaneous items. We're here to give feedback to Speedway regarding those items that will assist them in coming up with the best plan possible for the residents and for Speedway. So with that, I turn the deliberations back over to the commission, but I just ask that we try to focus our discussions on the things that legally we can, the feedback that we can give to Speedway so that they're able to come back and give us a final plan that's satisfactory, hopefully, to everyone. With that, I'll take any questions or concerns from commission members.
I believe the last point that we were talking about before we decided to table it and put it off is we had asked Speedway about possibilities of limiting the hours.
Can you talk?
We've asked I don't know, I guess it's working. So can you hear now? Okay. One of the last things we had just before we tabled this was we'd asked Speedway, their question had been brought up, could they limit the hours of the diesel fuel, selling diesel fuel on the site? And I believe that was the only question at that time, was it?
That was the only
Anybody remember my?
Okay. Would the
So I guess
applicant,
that would be the applicant.
yes, would the applicant come forward? State your name and address for the record, please.
Dan Shively, 500 Speedway Drive, Enid, Ohio. We did take it back and discussed internally and came up with the decision that we would have to move forward with 24-hour operation.
Okay. Do any commission members have any follow-up comments or discussion on that?
One question for I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Under the zoning, we can't mandate the hours of operation, can we?
No, not under the base zoning. You can certainly request of them, the request that you made to limit the hours, and I guess they've given you the response.
I'm not happy with it, but at least I have an answer.
On the site configuration portion, can we go back to when you're exiting out to Hills Miller, particularly, how close are they going to be exiting out to Hills Miller with the properties across the street? Because just from this level view, it looks like at night you would have headlights going almost right directly into, the apartment complex across the street.
Yeah, and you won't. And I'll show you why. I have to get up because the pointer doesn't work on the TVs, but I'll try to talk loud. So this essentially is the green space strip back all the way to the 84 lumber property. You can kind of see the dash lines here. The apartment complexes are north of that, or west of that, approximately here, and the closest edge of this easternmost apartment building to this point on the driveway is approximately 100 feet. The driveway from this point to the store is approximately 350 feet or so, and to this point about 370 feet. Also, with the angle of the driveway when trucks come around, or cars, or anybody that's using the site, they'll be pointing this direction, and these lanes obviously to turn left or to turn right and go back home or whatever. So it's not directly across, to answer your question.
And I think we also talked about whether or not that easement could be extended west towards, from where it's at, can we get the easement, conservation easement extended to cover the rest of?
Along the western portion
Right,
of
along
the
the
property,
western portion,
the
yeah.
top of the screen
Right.
in this shot. And I think that's something that was brought up at the last meeting, and I think
Yes.
that's something that Speedway's indicated they'd be open to taking a look at. But again, this is preliminary, and so I don't. They haven't let me know that they're making any amendments to that conservation easement, but maybe there'll be a different answer.
Chris Warshaw, 395 Springside Drive, Akron, Ohio. We will go ahead and extend that conservation easement up through that end of that wooded area. It's an additional about 1.3 acres.
Wow.
How do we get that? David, how will we get that into do we have to make it part of the conditions?
You can, but I also think because that's above and beyond the base zoning code, even the 3 acres of conservation easement, that's something that's been offered up by the applicant. They've obviously just put that on the record tonight. And this is preliminary, so that we would all be looking for that as we go into, assuming we go into a final development plan review. But you can put that on as a condition as well. I think it's been offered on the record, the same as the 3 acres that you see on the plan before you tonight.
So it would come back in the final, if it goes
Correct.
to a final,
Correct.
okay? And if it's not there, then we can move from there.
You can move from there. Yep.
Just to clarify the procedure, so after, assuming that there's a vote taken tonight, the issue would then, this is just a recommendation, that recommendation would go to our city council, and then the city council would have several readings. This would be on the agenda, assuming there's an opinion this evening, that would be on the next city council agenda, and then city council would actually be making the final decision on this. When I say final, I mean for the preliminary plan. Then Speedway is going to come back with a final plan, assuming it makes it through that process. Then it would come back here again for our recommendation and go back again to City Council.
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification. I think it would appear on the next council agenda, but per the council rules of procedure, typically any kind of presentation from staff or the applicant or any comment that council may allow the public to make would occur at at least the second meeting, and there are at least 3 readings per the rules, but
Per the rules, there's 3
to be
readings.
determined.
To be determined, that would be a council decision, but it would be read at least more than one time.
Just because there are citizens here to give them a sense of timing.
Sure. So that's what it would look like from here.
And just one final for me, I think we talked about sidewalk on the Hills Miller, but not on 23. Is that correct?
It's correct. We did talk about that, and the staff report indicates that we'd like some direction and clarification ultimately from City Council with respect to this issue,
Okay.
but obviously from you as well. What the site plan reflects today is sidewalk along both of those frontages, Hills Miller and 23 up to the point of the construction limits here, and then there's sufficient right-of-way to put in sidewalk further to the north as well moving forward. Starting really with really before Tractor Supply, but Tractor Supply, which has been there since the 80s and then came back in several years ago, and then several other developments in a 23 corridor. It's been a fairly consistent policy of the city through various councils to not have sidewalk or bike paths designed in along US 23. You're introducing pedestrians at pretty busy access points and that sort of thing. But to make sure that, as in this case, we have alternative and safer places for that to happen. For instance, the bike path along the Backage Road in this case. Now, there are some places in town where you simply have to close a gap. And so that's where you see those connections made. So our normal recommendation to you would be to say, let's not have a sidewalk along US 23. Let's make sure that we have right-of-way and or easements sufficient to provide for pedestrian access in the future as the city grows and changes and develops, so that the space is there, and then perhaps even take a payment in lieu of putting in that actual sidewalk.
One thing that I think was brought up as well at our last meeting was regarding the dispensing of diesel fuel. Does this body have the ability to regulate what types of fuels are dispensed in this particular case, this zoning, in this zone?
No.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Comments?
Other than no sidewalk on 23. I mean, I think that would be the recommendation, for at least from me, to continue that type of policy.
I would agree. I don't think that we really want pedestrians going across the right in, right out
No.
on 23 either. I think that would create a hazard.
With just going off the sidewalk conversation, I know we've talked about sidewalks fronting Hills Miller. I know there were some concerns last time about kids from the apartment, from the neighborhood coming over. Will there be connectivity to those existing sidewalks over there? Or just wondering if there's anything, if some of that money that we're accepting instead of having a sidewalk on 23, if there'd be anywhere to help with some of the concerns there.
We can certainly, as we move presumably through a final, we can bring that up to council and internally as staff. There is a gap. There's sidewalks on Bruce Road, I believe, and then there's a gap. There's none on Hills Miller at that point, so there'd be a gap from Bruce Road to essentially this backage road and the bike path there.
Okay.
So that's a good point.
I mean, I think the only other thing I might recommend to the applicant is if we are putting a sidewalk on the Hills Miller side, there probably should also be some kind of a pedestrian footpath to get from that sidewalk to the gas station so that pedestrians aren't sharing the drive with semis.
Yeah, that's something we could definitely look at as we go
Okay.
into final design.
Okay.
We ready to vote? Do we need more time? Are there any other questions that need to be answered?
None for me.
I just have a question about the map, and we might have addressed this last time. I apologize if we did, but on the map, the southern side, southeastern side, there's F1, F2, and F3. What are those on the map? Is that air? Are those air pressure? These.
There's tanks.
Those are the,
Are they storage
those are the-
tanks? Is
the
that
diesel tank storage,
what that is?
or any type of
Those
tank
are the
storage.
underground storage tanks.
Okay.
Do we have that site plan? Oh, no, they're right there. It's just small.
Yeah, those would be the underground storage tanks for the auto side.
Okay, so are they above ground at all?
No, they're all below grade underground, permitted through the state fire marshal.
Okay, so you could drive past them
Correct.
without having those inhibit the.
It has a cap on it, almost like a manhole cover,
Okay,
I think.
Yeah, there's actually a series of covers for the different vents and spill containment and whatnot. But yeah, there's that portion there. And there's actually another one up on the top right. And that would be servicing the commercial side of the station.
okay. I've seen those at gas stations. We might have addressed it. I just didn't remember. Okay, thank you.
Just want to take 1 second just to kind of further explain, because I think this process can be confusing for people who don't have to deal with this process and these types of decisions all the time. Sometimes a business owner will come and buy a piece of property that's zoned, let's say it's zoned agricultural, and then they want to build a gas station on that, and then they bring that proposal forward. We have a lot more leeway because we don't need to change zoning. There's public hearings, there's a large process that's involved in that. And we have a lot more leeway in cases like that. But in this case, Speedway bought this property that was already zoned for what they wanted to do with it. And so our legal justification really, we don't have one to just say no. And we know that that's what you'd like us to do. And we're doing what we can within what the laws are that we have to operate under. So.
You know, the only other thing and you know, this is one of my favorite things in the whole world, okay? Left in, you know, or right in and right outs. I think we need, it may not be applicable here, but we're gonna have it, we've gotta make it more difficult for people to either be coming north on 23 and decide they're gonna shoot in there, or to come out of Speedway and decide they're gonna go north out of Speedway. Okay? Because one of my concerns is that the one right there by me, after spending 3 years in the Marine Corps, I've learned that you can put these words together in different phases. Okay? When you're the car behind, the one that is stopping to turn, that's not supposed to be turning. Okay? And it does create a problem. So I think, and I don't know a good answer. I mean, I can come up with a good answer for it, but you know, no one's ever going to like it because you wouldn't be able to turn in without running over stakes that would spear your tires, okay? That the accelerate lane would only let you turn in there, and that would be it. But I think we need to, going forward in the future, we're gonna put that in there. We need to find a better way to develop that from going on, because that could be a problem out there.
The only answer that I can give you, Jim, is an answer that's really, it really doesn't change the condition. It has to do with emergency access and emergency vehicles. Basically, we don't construct those with stand-up curb that's, would tear your car apart, simply because we know there may be a day that an ambulance or a fire vehicle needs to get in there. So it's kind of a balance between inhibiting the everyday vehicle, but still prohibiting or still allowing the emergency vehicle. So it's a delicate balance. There are some places that put bollards in there. There are some municipalities use bollards, some just put signs. Everyone does it differently. And we've tried different uses in different places. And to be honest, we still haven't perfected it. But we're moving along in the right direction, I would say.
But
So
the second access could be across that piece of property that they're going to let the city have. Now, we did a strange type of driveway at the school up on Applegate, that's Schultz. Remember, we did one in there so that the fire department could get into the back of the building, I believe it was.
But there was
Kind of
emergency
gravel,
access
grass.
drive back to the west of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got the property back there that can make that possible. Thinking out of the
yeah.
box.
Understand your point. We all see it. People, and Bruce can attest to this, being the police officer in the room, you can put out traffic control devices and, a certain segment of people may not pay attention to those. You've made that point before, Commissioner. I think by and large, when you see these right-in, right-outs, the evidence suggests, and correct me if I'm wrong, engineers, that by and large, most people do follow the rule. There are a certain percentage that don't follow that on a right-in, right-out. Obviously, emergency vehicles are a different condition. The other item out here is that in US 23, at some point, I could envision as the city grows and the area grows and develops, that you get a medium divide at some point on US 23. We have those at different places in town where you've got a wall in between the north and southbound lanes. So that's a little different condition than on Halp Road by the CVS, which I know you're fond of, and other locations as well. Man, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I think the misbehavior occurs a lot more frequently at on low speed roads where the stakes aren't as high for the misbehavior. But similar to discussions we've had about the can opener, I mean, no matter what you do, there's still going to be a small percentage of drivers that just don't want to follow the rules, no matter what we do with signage and striping. I think the right-in, right-out is appropriate for this site because it does take some pressure off the intersection at Hills Miller. It allows ingress and egress, and they do function really well along 23. If you go down to like Lewis Center with the big Walmart down there and the Kroger Marketplace, there's a right-in, right-out there as well along between two signalized intersections, and it really helps the overall circulation of the site. They do have a low propensity for accidents, statistically.
That's it for me.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to approve 1511 for the preliminary development plan for the Speedway, along with all of staff's recommendations and conditions.
Have a motion by Mr. Halter,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Simpson. Roll call, please.
Madam Chair, just a point of order, recall that the commission also added a 20th condition
20th
at
condition.
your last meeting. Just want to point that out because it's not in your staff report with respect to the 1 hour parking for trucks, RVs. I don't have the language right in front of me.
I think that was added, wasn't it?
That was added. I
That was
just wanna
added by
point that
motion.
out.
And it's in the minutes too.
Yeah, we had that added before we took the break.
Correct.
Before we had a chance to make a motion, it was voted on and approved, right?
Correct.
Yes, so it's automatically part of the staff conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mansourus?
Yes.
Mr. Prahl?
Yes.
Ms. Tuckerbuck?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Lemke?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Simpson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Keller?
Yes, motion carries. So this matter will go to city council. If the clerk would please read item B into the record.
Item B, 2015-1792, a request by Rockford Homes for approval of a final subdivision plat for the estates of Brow-Miller, Section 6, consisting of 26 single-family lots.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're still conducting a meeting, please. Please leave quietly.
Would you like me to start over?
You can just pick up where you left off.
Consisting of 26 single-family lots on 8.38 acres zoned R2, one-family residential district with text limitations and located on Willow Grove Drive and Treeline Way.
Okay, who is the presenter on this?
I do, Madam
Okay.
Chairman. This site is located just west of Glen Road. It's actually the last section of this subdivision. It's zoned R2 with text limitations. The area, you can see it's fairly flat. It's connected from the south from Treeline Way and to the west from Willow Grove Drive. It's this is 26 lots of a 176 lot subdivision that was approved back in 2006. The engineers are currently reviewing the construction drawings. As I indicated, access is from the south and west of the existing street grid. There is a stub street to the north that stubs into a 60 acre parcel that's located in the township. The lot sizes range from about 10,000 square feet to 22,000 square feet, with the majority of the lots being between 10 and 13,000 square feet. The minimum width is 70 feet. The house design would not only have to meet our residential standards in Chapter 1171, but also the text limitations in the rezoning in 2004, which requires 35% natural materials. Ranch houses have to be a minimum 1,800 square feet. The two-story houses have to be a minimum 2,000 square feet. A lighting plan needs to be submitted and reviewed by staff. The landscape plan, we have a typical street tree plan that would be required to be reviewed. And also along Glen Parkway, a 4 to 6 foot high mound to buffer the rear of these houses would be required to be consistent with the mound that's out there today. Same height and plant material would be requested. There isn't any parkland in this section. However, in section 4, just south of here in the center, there's a almost 3.5 acre neighborhood park that has bike paths and playground equipment for children that has been constructed. The subdivision is located in the Delaware South New Community Authority and the Brow-Miller Residential TIF District. Staff recommends approval with 8 conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I'd also just note, with passage of this, assuming passage by council and you all, this is a bit of a watershed day for the subdivision in that this is the last section of this particular subdivision.
Since we're actually on the last section for this, and now we're going to be up to 176 homes in there, has there been discussion with the site developer on that 3.5 acres open lot? So if you've been through that neighborhood, there's no trees in there, no park benches. The swing set and the slides themselves look like something you'd buy from Costco. and now you're going to service 176 homes. Has there been discussion on improvement of that or adding to it?
Yeah, I hear you.
Any such?
Not adding to it, the discussion, I don't know whether you were on the commission yet or not. I think probably not yet. But there was discussion in earlier sections with the developer to actually put in the bike path and the piece of play equipment that you see today. That wasn't accounted for originally in this subdivision. So that is actually, at least in my judgment, an improvement over what it was. But there hasn't been any more discussion on improvement over that. That was quite a bit of discussion to just lead to that first improvement. And it'll be turned over to the HOA to maintain and manage. And part of this allows the HOA shortly here with build out of the subdivision and HOA control, resident control of the HOA, to make decisions like that if they would like to add some improvements or change things around in that parkland. This is a little bit different in that you have lots, a bunch of lots backing right up to this parkland as well. So we didn't want to be too prescriptive, even with some of the changes we made, knowing that would essentially be the backyards for some quite a bit of folks. We would maybe design it a little bit differently today.
I know, since I've been on it forward, we've been pushing those internal subdivision playgrounds with enhanced equipment, with a nicer look to them, to be honest with you.
And if we started today, we'd be consistent. We would do the same thing.
Is there anything we can go back to the site developer and say,
I can certainly make that request to them.
It's barely big enough. It's a Costco type playground. It really is. It's.
I'll say this.
For the look, you're better off with not having it than having it.
I'm more than happy to make that request to them. So I'll do that. I promise to do that. But I'll also say that it doesn't seem to be inhibiting sales of homes in that particular
No, not in any of our.
One way or the other, because as soon as they bring them online, they are bought and built immediately.
Nope,
So,
no doubt about it.
At least
So that means they're
homeowners,
getting their higher percentage off of those, and thus they could fund a little bit more.
as my point is, homeowners know the condition they're getting into.
That's true too. At the end of the day, you are buying into a package.
Not everybody wants something particularly
No, it's
programmed
just,
because
once
they know
you
they got
have
paid.
something, it might as well look nice.
Don't disagree with that. Soon we'll be maybe in an enforcement condition. I hope not.
No.
I hope not.
No.
I think it is good active open space, and it does provide some field space. Part of it too is trying to ensure there's a drainage course down in there.
Yes.
It's just the way the water flows across the site, and so we had to work with the engineers and the developer to make sure that obviously it could handle the storm water, but we still could have some open field space that wasn't, sloped to a degree that it wasn't field space anymore.
Right.
Is it just a large open field? Are
It's
there
3.5 acres.
Basically.
There's no trees.
Is it at least grassy?
It is.
Like you could kick a soccer ball on
You
that
can,
grassy?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
grassy. But when we mean open, there is no tree.
Yeah, it's maintained. It's cut.
Yeah, it's cut, it's maintained.
Typically, what's going to happen with the homeowners that surround it and back up to it is many of them will put in fences.
Sure.
Probably most of them, if passed is prologue. And many of them will put in trees as well in their backyard. And so you're going to start to see that fill in. Again, if the HOA wanted to fill in with some additional trees. But part of it is the more trees you fill in, the less field space that you have too. Because we do have some examples around town where spaces could have otherwise been used as field spaces in subdivisions. And we or the developer or the HOAs had so many trees planted in them that effectively it's a tree grove, but it certainly isn't a place where you could play a game of soccer or something like that. There is enough room where you could do both potentially.
Certainly. You can do anything in there. It's
a
wide
big
open.
space.
And you can kind of see it on the map
Yeah.
there. It's the,
You get a sense of scale.
It's got it's the space with the little triangle on the bottom, like a little.
yes, yep. Little triangle, and then goes into a bit of a square.
Overall, the subdivision has satisfied the tree requirement that
Yes.
had been put in place probably several years ago when this development was first proposed.
That's correct, and they're even, they're having to do some things that maybe a subdivision, a different location wouldn't have to do in terms of some of the additional buffering along Glen Road, and the mounding and landscaping that Lance spoke of. And there is also some tree preservation areas at the back of lots, primarily at the south end of the subdivision.
So what you're saying is as Glen Parkway begins its gentle or slow extension north, that mound may continue north from there.
I think that would be the idea in our planning, and you remember the Glen Ross North subdivision just got annexed. It'd be across Glen Parkway from here. And we designed in landscaping and mounding to an extent that we could. We also have to fit in utilities in that space. And for Glen Ross North, again, because of the way the water flows, you'll remember that's where some of their stormwater management ponds are as well. So you have to take, as you know, you have to take all that into account on each site.
Any other question? I'll entertain a motion.
Is the applicant here or?
Oh, is the applicant here? We have no questions for you, but you can come forward just to say hello.
Well, I'll throw mine out there. So that's the, if you heard it way back there, that is my question. It's on the, just on the park itself, the land in there.
My name is Kirk Zisler. I'm at 883 North Cassidy Avenue. I'm with the design engineer.
Could you spell your last name, though?
It's ZIESSLER.
And it was Kurt?
Kurt, yes.
Thank you, sorry.
If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. If not,
Unless you had something on the park space itself, if there was anything the site developer was going to do additionally to
not
that.
to my knowledge. I would bring it up.
Okay.
So definitely pass that along.
Kurt, I don't know, do you know off the top of your head how, I know that's a large flood route area through there, and I was trying to recall how wide that easement is.
I think it's
that
at least
helps
30
to
feet.
explain
It's
a little
pretty
bit.
wide.
Yeah.
And it's right through the middle,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of off-site water that comes through there. So that's part of the reason it has to look the way it does, because there has to be a wide open space for that flood routing. So it's a necessary evil to some degree, so.
I think it's worth asking the developer at the commission's request. You can, and I've already promised to do that tonight, in terms of maybe enhancing that play equipment and maybe adding in some tree plantings and such.
I would bring it to
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item? I didn't. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve 2015-1792, approval of final subdivision plan for the estates at Braun Miller, Section 6, with all of staff's recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Lemke. Second by Ms. Tuckerbuck. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mansoris?
Yes.
Mr. Prahl?
Yes.
Ms. Tuckerbuck?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Lemke?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Simpson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Keller?
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to item 4, the planning director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we're taking a look at the calendar for next year a little bit. The one conflict that we just want to get your feedback on was our meeting would be on January 6th, 2016. I know as of now, I'm scheduled to be out of town. I don't know if anybody else is around the holidays and such, but we could, as we're preparing a calendar, we'll bring it back to you here probably next month for next year, but we could move that to, I believe it's January 20th, that third Wednesday. But wanted to get your feedback on that. The 6th, it just falls, a lot of times we're right around the 1st and it's pretty obvious we're going to move that one, but this one's maybe far enough away that and maybe you don't know your calendar for January 6th yet. And if you feel like getting back with me, why don't you?
What's the school schedule? When are they back in session?
The 4th.
I know the old Tandy one is right about the 4th.
Yeah, fourth is the national
I think that
championship
would-
game?
I said,
No, we looked today because we were scheduling another meeting. It's actually on the 11th.
Okay.
The 20th,
We were
you're
checking.
clear of that. So.
The way the
You're
Buckeyes
definitely
are playing, I don't think you're going to have to worry about it.
Well, will any of us, do any of us know? I'll be back because everyone who has kids in school will be back on Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be back.
I don't have an issue with the 6th.
Will it be an issue with developers?
We just set the calendar and it is what it is. That's too far, generally a little bit too far out yet to know. As I say, I won't be here, but Lance will provide good service for you.
Is it something too where just based off of city staff with the holiday? I know sometimes that's also why we push that meeting out, is that to get reports and everything pulled together.
Sometimes that can be hard as well. With the 6th now pushed
that's a
out,
good
we'll
point.
just, we'll have to work with our applicants to make sure they're in a little earlier or at least on time.
Well, it sounds like it would be easier if we just moved it then.
Yeah, it does.
I'm okay moving it.
Just want to get your feedback.
I just thought maybe you'd appreciate getting to miss one, but.
Yeah, well,
I'm not going to have any opinion on that.
that is a really good point because it's going to take you guys
And then
time
we
to put
meet
everything
again on the
together.
3rd.
Yeah, and that happens when we move them to the third.
Yeah.
Third Wednesday. Sometimes around
Okay.
the 4th of July that happens, but that one was clear. The 4th of July was clear, so it looks like some of our normal conflicts
So
aren't
2
going to be
weeks
there.
later.
That would be the
Yeah,
20th.
If you have the 20th, then you're gonna have one 2 weeks later, the
Correct.
3rd.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so, you know, and what's everybody against the 13th for?
That's a BZA meeting.
Yeah,
We have other.
we only
boards
have
and
2
commissions.
slots. We've got that
We have
first and
BZA on the
3rd.
2nd, HPC on the 4th, so.
Well, just tell all the developers, don't come in with anything on January, wait till February.
I can tell them that.
I mean, I'm serious, I mean, if you do on the 20th, there can't be much you're gonna have on the 3rd.
It just all depends. We've had them back to back like that every couple of weeks where we'll get 2 heavy agendas and then we've had them where we get nothing on the next agenda. It's hard to know at this point in the year.
I mean,
Maybe
I don't
you'll-
care.
maybe you'll,
It's
roll the
fine
dice
to
and get
me.
lucky.
It just seems to me, it's, that normally one was gonna be a dead meeting.
I mean, one item.
Lance
I
is-
like dead meetings.
Lance is hoping
yeah,
you move
nothing
it to
wrong
the
with that.
20th because he can't be here, but I will be here.
I mean, one item that.
You can't be there on the
6th.
what?
On the 6th, I will not be here.
And on the 20th, Lance,
So which one of us do you like better? Just pick me. I'll just.
Just flip a
What's the
coin.
chance of neither one of you being here?
Hey, I'll just say the word.
Why don't we,
Bruce has the con.
I don't care.
Dave, will it be too hard to go ahead with the 6th? Will
No,
that-
no, we really just want feedback from you.
So no one will be on vacation and that doesn't cause any extra work or?
Just,
We'll be okay. We
it
can
just
serve.
won't be a planning director's report.
Which you'll probably appreciate.
well, is anyone on vacation? Is anyone on vacation the week of January 1st? Like, are there you guys here to put the reports and do all the really heavy lifting?
We'll have them probably prepared before,
Okay.
maybe before Christmas, certainly the week.
Then let's leave it on the
Christmas.
6th and be done.
Okay,
Makes no difference to me.
leave it on the 6th.
6th, okay.
So New Year's Day, you're gonna be delivering these boxes.
Not me.
I'm just saying, there's that too.
That's a good point, George.
They'll go out, they'll have to go out early.
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
I won't be here.
Yeah, I don't think that's-
Forget the whole thing.
I don't have a social life, but I won't have sitters.
All right, let's do it this way. If you want to keep it the 6th, raise your hand.
It's like I'm in the minority.
If you want to move it to the 20th, raise your hand. If you don't want every meeting, so you got to pick one of you.
What happened to the 13th? I want to go.
That was an option.
That was a flawed.
All right, we're moving it to the 20th.
Move it to-
Done.
Do we need a motion?
No.
No.
Might be the only way this.
Do we need a
I'm
motion?
sorry, are we doing it on the 20th?
Yes, we are going to do it on the 20th.
What did we just do, the 20th?
It's the 20th now.
It's the 20th, and that's the final answer.
Yes.
Or we
Guess-
can
let's
table
move on
till
before
So
we
what you're
change
saying
it.
is you didn't want Lance here.
Hey, you're saying you like Lance better, that's okay. I'm a big boy, that's fine. Moving on. Madam Chair, moving on. So the Willowbrook, looks like for next month, we have another addition to Willowbrook out on West William. Now, this is a wing kind of to the west of their main building that they have brought to us before, at least at the staff level. I think it's Alzheimer's care wing, a second story, so it's sort of filling in two of the space between two wings that come out from the main building there. So that's what it looks like on the agenda for now, unless something else came in the afternoon.
That's all we have as of now.
Something may still yet dribble in the door, but that's what we have. Looking forward to next month. And I wanted to let you know that the wayfinding installation has started, and I mentioned that to you before. So when you see some of the blue poles have gone up around downtown, that's part of the wayfinding installation, and soon, hopefully, all of those will go in and the signs will go in as well. So that's exciting. That's been a few year process. The other thing I want to let you know is that we're starting we just, Chairwoman, we just wrapped up basically the discussion at the council on the capital improvement plan. It hadn't been adopted yet, but the bulk of the discussion happened Monday, I think. And then the budget process, the overall operating budget process has begun as well. So if you have any items that you want to discuss with me, feel free to email me or call me, and we can certainly discuss those. I think as of now, the basic direction that I'm receiving is to pretty well hold to status quo going into 2016 as well. To be determined through the lengthy budget process. And then lastly, I want to let you know that the county courthouse cases, rezonings and such did pass council here. You might have read about that, or otherwise you might know that, but you also may not. So I wanted to let you know that those passed, and they did refer a couple items that were going to the parking and safety subcommittee of council with respect to the spaces on Sandusky for the bump out for the defensive space, as well as the alley issue that we discussed. Will be going to that subcommittee as well. But the rezoning and development plan were approved by council. So you probably somewhat shortly will start seeing at least the demolition of some of the existing structures on that site, would be my guess. Although I don't believe we have a demolition permit in yet. So.
Not yet.
And that's all I have for this evening. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Real quick, with respect to Willowbrook, since they already have, I'm assuming, submitted a master plan, they still have to come before commission for any new construction or additions?
Yeah, it's kind of like a case on the agenda tonight. It's the development plan review process. Their zoning's in place. They do have a master plan, but it's a development plan review. And they've had at least 2, maybe 3 of these additions that I can recall. I'm looking around at staff since I've been here in the 10 years. So they've pretty well been in a cycle since they started construction of doing additions to that facility out there.
Okay, commission member comments. Start with Colleen.
So I have 2, and I'll start with the positive one. The last
Well,
meeting,
the good news or the bad?
no, the last meeting or the meeting prior, I mentioned the concern about the potholes when you're driving west on 3637 as you are entering town. And ODOT has done quite a bit substantially to improve those. So, and I'm sure that had something to do with their enhancements to Glen Road, that they're in that area anyway. But it's much better because you're not hitting holes as you're entering town. The other thing, and it's not negative, but I'm going to sound like a broken record, the lighting on Bowtown that I've mentioned before, it is still a problem now that's getting dark earlier. It's even more of a problem. And 2 weeks ago, I counted, there are no street lights when you turn from 36 onto Bowtown. So you make that left. There are no actual street lights. The first real lighting that you get besides the house and the apartment complex is is the home division, is the subdivision.
Kensington there.
Yeah. Well, no, it's
Old Colony.
Old Colony. And so I realize we've talked about that in the future, we'll be looking at that, but as it's getting darker, I mean, there really is a visibility issue there. So that's all I've got.
And I know we brought that forward, but I don't think that was in the capital improvement plan. I don't know. I'd have to go back to check. I don't think it was in the capital improvement plan, but we can reiterate that that's an issue again.
And
I know we brought that forward before. So.
thank you.
Mr. Lemke?
First, I want to thank David and Lance and all the staff that has pulled together the reports for Speedway the last couple of weeks and giving us the background and information that was needed. And Councilwoman Keller, your intro tonight, I think, was helpful too, and just kind of setting the stage and setting the right expectations. So I think that was helpful, and hopefully the citizens that were here also appreciate. I mean,
the amount of work that goes into this type of plan and these decisions, and that I don't think anyone on the commission took it lightly. So I think, but from the top down, I think it was done in a very classy way, as Donald Trump would say. So commend all of you guys on that.
Are you comparing staff to Donald Trump?
No, I think I'm comparing myself to Donald Trump. So, no.
Wow.
It's gonna be classic. Yeah. My only other question then, though, is as it relates to Speedway, based off of kind of council readings, I know it's probably a moving target to some extent, but when will that come back through from a final standpoint? Or roughly?
I couldn't even speculate.
Okay.
I know what Speedway has indicated is that they like to be under construction, probably spring, summer of 2016.
Okay.
So they're certainly well within that time frame at this point, and it wouldn't surprise me. It just depends how the council hearings go and how long that takes, I'm sure, and then how long it takes to prepare final plans. But somewhere around the first of the year for final would not be out of the realm of possibility, but I can't tell you right now.
Okay.
January 20th.
January 6th. That's why he was trying to get out of that meeting.
January.
That's why you were pushing that first
6th.
Wednesday. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Halter?
Anything going on with the Terra Altas out there? Is anybody breaking ground?
Nobody's breaking ground, but they and Stockdale Farms to the south of there are making inexorably slow progress. Would that be fair, Jen, on the engineering considerations? She
Yeah,
could fill you in a little bit more on that.
We're at a bit of a
they're getting there.
Yeah, we're at a bit of a stopping point on Stockdale simply because the Brumiller Road improvements that are required for their plan are just pretty extensive. The first submission of the Brumiller Road plan was lacking because they were trying to squeeze it into existing right-of-way. And what we kind of found was they really are going to have to get some additional right-of-way if they need to get that done. So it's kind of at a little bit of a halt because of that right now. We're waiting. I think they're working. Those Brumiller Road plans have to be approved directly by the county. So they are working with the county to determine whether any of those requirements will be changed or if there's any alternate that they can look at. Terra Alta is moving along. Terra Alta, we actually had their first submission of the redesign, which is a completely different. That was the one that came. When did that the redesign came to you guys separately? Or?
No, there was a small
Let's try to-
redesign, just really cul-de-sacing one of the radial roads
That's
because
right.
of the
We did
grade
not
and
take that
safety
back.
concerns of
Mhm.
that. What you recall, one of the radial roads off of there. That, because it's a planned mixed-use development, didn't rise to the level of a major change at that point, but
Yeah.
they're working their way through some engineering consideration. On Stockdale, it wouldn't surprise me if we might see a new thought on a rephasing of that development. So instead of starting on the west, they may start on the east. They'll just have to, because of some of the considerations Jen was talking about, but we'll have to see when we get there.
Terra Alta, we've got their first round back of comments, so we're moving along, but because it is a different design, it's kind of like starting back at square one. So we're getting there, like slow, as Dave described. So
I guess the only other thing, and Mr. DeGenova used to ask for it once in a while, some meeting that's slow, definitely not one of our busier meetings. I think it'd be nice, since there's a lot of new people on here, to have an overview of what property is open for development here in the city of Delaware that is not already under a preliminary or something like that development. It also would be nice, and it might be difficult and it may be just crazy even to ask for it, but I know there's got to be some other properties like the Speedway that are going to come in someday and they're going to get us. And it'd be nice to know where those are. I think there's one out on Troy Road across from the park. I think there was an approval one time out there, zoning for, it's going to be a baseball thing.
Yeah, it was before my time, but I
Yeah,
recall that being
you know,
mentioned.
something like that, may have a zoning on that.
Yep.
thing That someday could definitely come back.
Yep.
You know, it seemed like an awfully good idea when I was not planning at that time or someplace, but it seemed like a real good idea at the time. But now, not knowing exactly what it was zoned for, it might be, even though we can't change it, but it sure be nice for everybody to know it's sitting there.
I think that's a good point. One, just to let you know, is one of the things we've been trying to do this year as staff, and it's been kind of hard, frankly, with everything else that's been going on, but to try to update and make more easily updatable our zoning map for one, and our comprehensive plan map for two. And that is in GIS in the computer and all that, and then publish them on the web and that sort of thing. And keep them more up to date than maybe we have been. But also with the development pipeline information, I think that's some of what you referenced there. Used to, like you say, in a slow meeting, give you a little overview of what's in at least the residential development pipeline. We certainly can expand it to some of the other areas. We're working to update that as well. With the busyness and frankly staff cuts coming through the recession, we haven't had a chance to update that map and data behind the map since really fall of 2009, but we're in process with that now. A couple things I didn't mention, we're also in process of updating the bike plan. You guys, I've told you that before, but we're also in process now of doing a sanitary sewer master plan update. So these are all sort of big precursor documents that require this kind of data and thinking. Perhaps going into a comprehensive plan update at a point, you can really think of those pieces as the beginnings of an update, really, for the next phase of our growth and development. I view them that way. And I know also the engineering department has started or is getting ready to start. They really started with some data gathering and that sort of thing, a thoroughfare plan update as well. So at appropriate times, I think we need to bring that information back to you so that you have it, have an opportunity to comment on it and see it.
Some of them, like the extension of the Troy Farm, it's got sewer problems. Okay? Which is gonna make it difficult for a developer because of the expense, you know, traffic rolls downhill and up there, they're in a downhill and they gotta get it back up there or go down on 23 or something. So it'd be nice to know, you know, kind of where those properties are at.
Yeah.
It's already zoned, so there's nothing we can do about it. But this is agriculture, we haven't zoned it yet.
Right.
Or whatever. I think, you know, it'll give us an idea of what's around us and where Delaware actually is. Because I know I was surprised when I first saw it. I had no idea we had that many lots laid out already that have been built on.
Yep. Yeah, I'm even thinking that it's getting hard to find a real slow month when we also have the data updated, ready to present to you. But maybe a third Wednesday too, we could just set aside as almost a work session on just that kind of thing. I know I don't want to meeting everybody to death, but there's a lot to go over when we bring that data forward.
Well, I understand staff is busy too. I'm not trying to put this
it's a great
here.
It's
I'm
a
just
great
saying
point. We need to do that.
It'd be nice sometime. I think everybody, we can see it again.
I agree.
You know.
Yep.
Okay, I forgot where I left off.
Me.
Mr. Manzaro? You
Yes.
gave
Nothing. But I'd too like to echo
Don't remember.
Adam's sentiments about the professionalism of the way this Speedway was handled. And if any of you had a chance to review last month's meeting on YouTube, it showed that very clearly. So, and the community had a great opportunity to present their case, and they did it in I thought was a very well-mannered way as well. So, and Chairwoman Keller, I think the words that you used tonight to start out talking about the compass pointing north was very apropos, since everything that we're talking about was north of here. So I think it gave everyone a sense of where we were headed tonight. So hats off to you as well.
Thank you.
And do you know about that new place that's taken over the old Long John Silver's? Have you heard of it? Yeah. Can you tell us anything about that? Freddy's fast food?
Oh, goodness.
Is it a affiliation with Freddy's Fast Cars and stuff? like
No, I think it's a repurposing of the vacant Long John Silver's for sure for Greek and Mediterranean food.
Greek.
Um,
I don't know any Greeks named Freddy.
No, we just saw the sign for the name on it, although we've been talking to them a little bit about just some of the building code items of what they need to do to repurpose that building. But what I understood is at least there is some of the same business interest as in Opa down here in downtown. So I don't think it's exactly the same, but I think there's some crossover there. So and we started conversations with them several months ago, so they're progressing.
So,
Okay, Mr. Prowl?
Just the one thing on the city park alongside Glen Parkway, just to let you know, they've cleared about probably 98% of the dirt alongside there, so that was good to see. They've pushed it over on the other side of Cheshire, so they've just moved it to another subdivision. There's no subdivision there yet, but at least that one has been cleared, and
Progress.
that's got to be something. There's just a little bit remaining. I can't imagine it'll take them, an hour to move that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Simpson?
I have a couple things. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Is it me or has anybody else not witnessed the windmill turning?
I saw it.
You saw it turning
I
in the
drove-
last week?
I've seen it turn.
I
Okay.
drove by about a week ago and it was not turning, but then 2 days after, and I was like, oh, it's not turning, but then 2 days after it was turning, because my son, my 3-year-old.
He likes the windmill,
I do
right?
likes the windmill, so he points it out. So
Nice.
yes, it was turning.
My next question is, I happen to notice that one of my neighbors has erected their own personal mini windmill on top of their shed. What is the zoning code regarding erecting a windmill in your backyard? Is that legal tender?
You can do that as an accessory structure under our base zoning code. Where you live, that would probably be okay. I don't know whether we have a permit for that or not. We'd have to check, but I think in newer subdivisions, typically they do have covenants and restrictions against all kinds of things, from solar panels to clotheslines to windmills. Believe it or not, that's fairly.
I don't have an
fairly
issue with the
typical.
windmill. It's just, I found it fascinating watching the gentleman install it on top of his shed. I was just like,
Yeah, we have some height restrictions and locational restrictions, but
I had a conversation with the gentleman down there, don't know if it's the same location, but likely, and told him what the restrictions were, but I don't remember a permit. So if you can give me
have to follow up
an
on it.
address, I can follow up.
I think this, with emerging technology, and there's a lot of that in a lot of realms. We talked about different fuels tonight, and windmills and solar panels, and those are things that I think by and large it's probably good that our code allows, but also has some height restrictions and some other locational restrictions. But as we move through technology and time, and there may be some issues that come up too, we'll revisit those sections of code.
I mean, I will say, I don't see that windmill spinning a lot either. So it's like a trend. 2 more things. I noticed that they did some cleanup of the vegetation along Weisner Avenue next to the assisted living.
Delaware Place?
Yeah, Delaware Place. It was getting a little bit of like some overgrowth coming through the fence. The fence itself that's over there is not in good condition. There's some planks that are falling off the fence, and that fence is really the only thing keeping any folks on that sidewalk from falling down in that 20-foot ravine. I don't know whose responsibility that fence is. I assume it's probably Delaware Place's, but it could use some basic maintenance just to keep the safety level where it needs to be.
Okay, I'll check on that.
And then the last thing is I noticed they've installed a sidewalk along Olentangy Avenue that now connects the bike path to Sandusky Street, which I think is great. I think that piece of connectivity brings back a point that I brought up a little bit earlier this year about a lack of street lighting on that tail end of Henry Street where Olentangy Avenue is. Now that you have that piece of pedestrian connectivity, I think it's even more important to consider street lighting on that tail end of Olentangy, that south end. Just some things to kind of chew on. That's all I have.
Especially with the overpass. And
yeah.
It's right there and you Can't see anything going left anyways,
Can't see
or.
anything down
You don't
there.
get lighting before I get lighting, okay?
It's near a college campus. Lots of young
It's
children
near
down there.
YMCA and it's like, I don't know.
It's a race.
We all need lighting.
We all need lighting.
We need a lot of things.
I mean, we have a lot of bright folks in here right now, so.
Okay, I want to thank everyone. It was a tough decision. It's also tough when there's a lot of pressure. And just thank everyone for going over everything as thoroughly as I know everyone did and asking some really great questions. Thanks staff for bringing to us a fabulous report so that it didn't leave a whole lot to the imagination. It never really does. And I want to thank our police chief for joining us. It was fun to have you here. Thank you very much. And with that, our next meeting is November 4th, 2015, and we are adjourned.